you guys so much for all the support on the channel recently. But we got to talk about this. So this is from the from CDS Sports Podcast, Chicks Dig Scars. Go. This is from their YouTube channel. I'm not sure if they made a YouTube video about this. I just saw it on Twitter and bookmarked it. I'm not sure, but if they haven't made a video on it, I just saw this in my bookmarks and I want to give my opinion on it. So, if you guys don't remember, we've all said this. So Caitlin Clark.
Recently, footage has reappeared online showing a rather questionable moment involving the Indiana Fever coaching staff and Caitlin Clark during a matchup against the Connecticut Sun about a month ago. The clip captures the aftermath of a big play from Clark, a smooth step-back three-pointer over JC Sheldon that sent the home crowd into a frenzy. At that point in the game, the Fever had built up a comfortable 20-point lead, and the momentum seemed fully on their side. However, things took a strange turn immediately after Clark's highlight moment. As she celebrated with the energized fans, she was suddenly subbed out of the game. What's raising eyebrows is the fact that this substitution turned out to be her final appearance of the night. Despite Indiana's large lead and the game still having plenty of time left, Clark was kept on the bench for the remainder of the contest. The resurfaced footage has sparked fresh conversation among fans who are questioning the timing of the decision, especially given Clark's performance and the energy she had brought to the court in that moment.
We've all said this. So Caitlin Clark has been knocked on her ass. She's been knocked on her ass. She's been cheap-shotted. She's been poked in the eye. Everything. They have beat the Connecticut Sun. This is a month ago nearly. The Connecticut Sun beat the crap out of her. Absolutely beat the crap out of each other. But it's now where you've got...
The footage in question shows Caitlin Clark interacting with fans, clearly trying to keep the energy high inside the arena. However, things took an unexpected turn when a member of the Indiana Fever coaching staff stepped in and physically grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the crowd without any clear warning or communication beforehand. This moment has stood out to many because of the broader narrative surrounding Clark's emotional presence throughout this season. Analysts and fans alike have noticed that her typically fiery on-court demeanor seems to have been dialed back in recent weeks, especially after enduring several highly physical matchups earlier in the year. That very game against the Connecticut Sun was no exception. Clark faced multiple aggressive defensive plays, some of which were labeled by viewers as unnecessary or excessive. Many have pointed to these moments as part of an ongoing pattern targeting Clark, a pattern that has continued to draw criticism from fans and media alike.
It's now where you've got Caitlin Clark then goes and hits a step-back three on JC Sheldon. And she goes, the whole crowd's going nuts. And she comes, and she's getting subbed off, by the way, at this stage. She's getting subbed off for the game. She doesn't go back in the game at this stage. So it's not like it's a close game. They're up 20. She does not see the floor again. Caitlin Clark is there hyping up the crowd. She's there trying to hype up the crowd. Exactly what you want. Exactly what you want. You want to see this version of Caitlin. You want to see this player. And by the way, after this game, we talked about
the timing of this coaching staff's actions has raised even more questions, especially considering growing concerns about Caitlin Clark's emotional engagement on the court. In the aftermath of this particular game, several analysts pointed out a noticeable shift in Clark's demeanor. She seemed far less expressive in the games that followed, a stark contrast to the energy and emotion fans had grown used to seeing from her. This change was especially apparent during a matchup against Golden State, where Clark appeared unusually disengaged and distant from the flow of the game.
She was emotionless. She was emotionless when they lost to Golden State. She has been emotionless in games. And that's what everyone said, where they were like, Caitlin, they were like, oh, Caitlin, people saying Caitlin's an angel. No one ever said Caitlin's an angel, but she became emotionless. And watch what happens here. So the coach just grabs her out of nowhere. And I'm like, I don't think there's anything too malicious in that. I don't know if there's anything too malicious. We don't know what's said, but like...
Many basketball analysts have started to wonder if there's a deeper conflict between the organization's current approach and Caitlin Clark's natural competitive instincts. During her time at Iowa, Clark became known for her fiery and emotional style of play, a mindset that not only fueled her personal success, but also drove her team to greater heights. Her on-court personality was built around passionate celebrations, engaging directly with the crowd, and wearing her emotions openly, traits that quickly became a defining part of her identity as a player.
You can't just grab a player. Like, I'm sorry, you can't just, the player's walking back, you can't just grab a player. Like, and by the way, from this moment on, we hardly saw anything. From this moment on, the emotion was gone from Caitlyn. Let's be real, that was right before the Valkyries game. The Valkyries game that realistically just kind of broke her. And like,
it appears that the organization is placing greater emphasis on maintaining a more controlled and polished public image, even if it means toning down natural displays of competitive emotion. That moment of physical intervention during Clark's celebration seems to highlight a much deeper issue: a clear clash between a player's authentic competitive spirit and the expectations set by the organization's leadership. For many observers, this situation reflects an ongoing struggle between letting athletes express their passion freely and enforcing a more restrained, image-conscious approach.
Joker. And like, I mean this when I say this, like, the referees are threatening a tech for hyping up the crowd. Go take your tech. This is sports. This is sports. You take a tech. I don't care. We treat this sport like it's men's sport. And I mean this, we talk about basketball like it's basketball. You don't have to like Caitlin Clark. You don't even have to like Caitlin Clark did this. But this is Caitlin Clark. This is Caitlin at her best, when she is relentless. When she is relentless.
Even Caitlin Clark has acknowledged this underlying tension in various interviews, openly recognizing that the preferences of the coaching staff don't always align with what brings out the best in her performance. Clark has made it clear that her connection with the crowd and her emotional investment on the court are key factors that help her perform at the highest level. This incident has sparked broader conversations about coaching strategies and how player development is handled at the professional level. Throughout basketball history, many of the game's most successful athletes have relied on emotional engagement and outward displays of passion as a driving force behind their competitive edge.
She is relentless. When she is relentless, when she's getting the crowd involved. And it's literally like Caitlin. She said it against like the Liberty. She said after the game, she's like, oh, I want to get the crowd involved. I want to do this, want to do that. Like, that's kind of what her goal is. She's like, that's when I'm at my best. And she keeps getting asked interview questions about it. It's like, oh, they're trying to get you to do this. They're trying to get you to do this. But at the end of the day, it is, Caitlin literally goes, well, it's like,
during her time at Iowa, former head coach Lisa Bluter did an excellent job of channeling Caitlin Clark's competitive energy into positive leadership on the court. Under that system, Clark's passion wasn't suppressed. It was embraced and used as a tool to elevate the team's overall performance. Rather than discouraging her emotional style, Iowa's approach focused on helping her direct that intensity in a way that benefited both her and her teammates. In contrast, it seems the current professional environment values a different philosophy. This may not be solely driven by coaching preferences, but rather influenced by directives from the front office, potentially tied to concerns over public image or aligning with broader expectations within the league.
It is, Caitlin literally goes, well, it's like, well, they're trying to my team are trying to stop me from doing this, but that's when I'm at my best. She's essentially said her coach doesn't want her to play her game. And it's very clear that the Indiana Fever don't want Caitlin to be Caitlin. They want to see the perfect. And by the way, I don't know if this is just from the coaching staff. I think this might be from the front office. Maybe they want to keep this squeaky clean image of Caitlin Clark, not realizing that Caitlin Clark didn't have this squeaky clean image. Caitlin Clark, let's be real. There's a video.
The larger conversation here goes far beyond just the management of a single player. It raises important questions about the role of authentic, competitive expression within professional sports as a whole. For Caitlin Clark, emotion has always been a natural and essential part of her game. That passion has consistently fueled her high level of performance and played a key role in building strong connections with fans. Trying to fundamentally change the personality traits that drive an athlete's success could ultimately backfire, not only hindering individual growth, but also limiting the organization's overall potential. That now viral moment of physical intervention during her celebration serves as a clear example of the ongoing tension between institutional control and the raw, competitive spirit that defines so many of the sport's greatest players.
Possession and double off Jordan Canada, allowing Jordan Canada to score 26 points in the first half. They're up big at halftime. Or the game's over at halftime if Kelsey Mitchell doesn't cook. And the first half was the Kelsey Mitchell show. It was the Kelsey Mitchell show. Like, Aaliyah Boston goes into halftime with 5 points. And her only basket being a 3-point shot. A 3-pointer was Aaliyah Boston's only basket in the first half. She did not touch the ball in the post.
This situation continues to unfold as many are keeping a close eye on Caitlin Clark's emotional engagement and how it's impacting her overall performance. There's a noticeable difference between her current, more reserved demeanor and the dynamic, fiery presence she showed earlier in her career. This contrast has only fueled speculation about ongoing internal conflicts. The struggle between her natural competitive instincts and the expectations being set by the organization. During their recent matchup with the Atlanta Dream, the Indiana Fever appeared to showcase two very different versions of themselves. Interestingly, both approaches produced decent results on the scoreboard. However, the stark difference between how they played in the first half compared to the second provided some valuable insight into what style of play might ultimately bring out the best in this team moving forward.
Caitlin Clark goes into halftime with, that's the second quarter. Did Aaliyah score in the first quarter? She goes into halftime with 9 points. In the second quarter, her only shot was a 3-pointer. Caitlin Clark goes into halftime with 4 points, 5 assists. And Jordan Canada's obviously cooking them. But it was the Kelsey Mitchell show. It was. This team goes where Kelsey Mitchell goes. And the Indiana Fever, in my opinion,
In the opening half, it was Kelsey Mitchell who stepped up and carried much of the offensive responsibility as several of her teammates struggled to find their rhythm. Aaliyah Boston had a particularly quiet start, finishing the first half with just 5 points, with her only made field goal coming from beyond the 3-point line. Something rarely seen from a player known for her dominance in the paint. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark contributed modestly on the scoreboard with 4 points, but made her impact felt through playmaking, dishing out 5 assists and focusing more on creating opportunities for her teammates rather than forcing her own shot.
And the Indiana Fever, in my opinion, the Indiana Fever can win games playing like that, but it can't be while Caitlin Clark is on the floor. Because if Caitlin Clark is on the floor, it needs to be your secondary. It needs to be your secondary. And I think the fact that Kelsey Mitchell can still go and do that is important. But at the same time, I think it's even more important to realize who your options are and who your best player is.
Jordan Canada took full advantage of defensive breakdowns throughout the first half, putting up an impressive 26 points as the Fever repeatedly sent double teams into the post, leaving Canada in favorable positions to exploit. This defensive strategy ended up working against Indiana, as it allowed Canada to effectively run the show for Atlanta's offense. On the other end of the floor, Kelsey Mitchell's performance highlighted a heavy reliance on isolation plays, where individual scoring efforts took priority over team ball movement. While this approach helped keep Indiana within reach, it also showcased a slower, more methodical style that didn't align with the team's usual strengths. Despite the lack of flow and a performance some might describe as lacking visual appeal, the Fever still managed to stay competitive heading into the second half.
And that is good old Caitlin Clark. But yeah, the first half was a grind down, gritty game. And the Indiana Fever, I thought, did a really good job of that. And that's one thing. The Fever, they didn't out-grit. They did out-grit. I'm sorry, Jordan Canada. It was a Jordan Canada masterclass, and it worked, but it was ugly basketball. Early on,
this slow, grinding style of play highlighted deeper concerns about the Fever's overall roster construction and strategic approach. Both Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hull appeared to struggle when operating within such a restricted offensive system, which limits their ability to fully showcase their skill sets. On the other hand, Sophie Cunningham has proven she can adapt to a variety of playing styles, providing consistency regardless of the system. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston displayed her versatility once again, putting up 10 points in the second half, with 8 of those coming during the pivotal fourth quarter. It was during that second half where Indiana finally showed flashes of their true potential, pulling away from Atlanta thanks to a more free-flowing offensive rhythm. Caitlin Clark led the charge with 14 points in the fourth quarter alone, while Temi Fogbenle and others chipped in with an additional 13 points to help secure the advantage.
Early on in the game, it was really, really ugly basketball. And they managed to stay in it playing ugly basketball. The problem is that there is one player on your team that just does not play well playing ugly basketball. There's multiple. Caitlin Clark does not play well in ugly basketball, and Lexi Hull does not play well in ugly basketball. I think Sophie...
The stark contrast between the two halves revealed two very different sides to this Indiana Fever team. On one hand, they've shown they can stay competitive through a physical, grinded-out style, something we've already seen in previous wins against teams like Las Vegas, where the games turned into defensive battles filled with physicality and grit. However, while this method may keep them in games, it doesn't represent the team's highest potential. Instead, it seems more like a temporary solution, rather than the foundation of their most effective and sustainable playing style.
Basketball. I think Sophie can kind of fit into any style of basketball. I think Aaliyah, as much as Aaliyah's first half points, she had 9. What did she have in the second half? Her fourth quarter, she had 10 in the second half. And were all that in the fourth? 8 of them were in the fourth quarter. And like that was the big thing. And like if you look at the second half again, fourth quarter plus 14 for Caitlin, plus 13 for Dantas, plus 13, plus 13, plus 8 for Aaliyah before she fouls out. Like,
Coach Stephanie White's strategy of trying to match the physicality of opponents, rather than establishing Indiana's own preferred style of play, has raised some valid strategic concerns. From a long-term perspective, both the team's development and their entertainment value seem far better served by embracing a more up-tempo approach, one that takes full advantage of their athletic strengths while delivering the kind of exciting, fast-paced basketball their growing fan base expects.
Before she fouls out. Like, it really was a case where the Indiana Fever looked like two separate teams. And I think they are two separate teams. Like, the Indiana Fever are not a terrible grinded out team. They're not a team that's going to compete for anything grinding it out. But like, they can win a game. We saw it against the Lynx. We saw it against the Aces when they just made it gritty.
The 18,000 fans in attendance have shown equal enthusiasm for Caitlin Clark's jaw-dropping assists as they have for her deep three-point shooting. Whether she's pushing the ball coast to coast or orchestrating fast breaks in transition, these moments generate just as much excitement as her perimeter scoring. This only reinforces the idea that an up-tempo style of basketball benefits Indiana not just competitively, but also in terms of fan engagement and overall entertainment value. Looking back at recent trends, there's clear evidence to support this. In past games, there were moments where Kelsey Mitchell saw reduced minutes in the second half, and the team's overall performance noticeably improved. The numbers seem to suggest that Indiana's efficiency increases significantly when Mitchell plays more off the ball, rather than serving as the team's primary ball handler.
We saw it against the Lynx. We saw it against the Aces when they just made it gritty. We saw it at the start of the year against the Atlanta Dream. And the Indiana Fever, when a team tries to make it gritty and physical with them, the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White's tactic is to make it gritty and physical back, which, in my opinion, is the wrong way to go about it. I think Stephanie White's job should always be to impose their play style on other teams and to try running, because that is how, one, the team is going to be better long-term doing that, and two, you know, the way there's like 18,000.
One of the key challenges facing the Indiana Fever revolves around how Kelsey Mitchell's playing style fits within a system built around Caitlin Clark's strengths. While Mitchell's individual talent is undeniable, as shown by her efficient 25-point performance, her reluctance to fully adapt within Clark's system often leads to inefficiencies that show up in advanced metrics. For example, despite the team winning by 17 points, Mitchell still posted a -3 rating, highlighting how individual success doesn't always align with team success when playing styles aren't fully in sync. At the heart of this issue is the question of offensive philosophy and ball movement. Caitlin Clark consistently looks to involve her teammates, often prioritizing assists and creating opportunities for others rather than focusing solely on her own scoring numbers. When Mitchell buys into this approach, taking only high-quality shots and quickly moving the ball when nothing's available, the Fever's offense operates at a much higher level. We've seen flashes of this working. At times, Mitchell plays with remarkable efficiency, limiting herself to wide-open three-pointers or easy finishes at the rim, while quickly returning possession to Clark to keep the offense flowing. This style complements both players, maximizing their strengths and keeping the offense balanced. Clark's approach reveals an interesting paradox. When she plays off the ball, some might mistake her actions as selfishly seeking scoring chances. However, when she takes on primary ball handling duties, her instincts clearly lean toward team-first basketball. This is exactly why Indiana's offensive system should continue to revolve around Clark's ability to create for others. The second-half turnaround against Atlanta proved just how impactful Clark's aggressiveness can be. Her defensive energy sparked a domino effect throughout the roster. The wings found better spacing, shooters had more open looks, and Aaliyah Boston established stronger positions in the post. Meanwhile, Atlanta's fatigue became obvious as they struggled to keep pace with Indiana's faster tempo. What worked in Atlanta's favor during a physical, grinding first half quickly turned against them when Indiana ramped up the speed. Atlanta's energy drained as they fought just to stay in position, allowing the Fever to dictate the game with transition opportunities and improved ball movement. The result was fewer isolation possessions and far more efficient, high-percentage shots. Mitchell's evolving role presents both an opportunity and a concern for Indiana's long-term outlook. Her scoring ability remains a valuable asset, but her tendency to fall into isolation-heavy habits mirrors patterns seen on other teams where it ultimately harmed overall success. Finding the right balance between leveraging Mitchell's scoring and maintaining team-first offensive principles will be critical moving forward. While Indiana has shown they can grind out wins through physical play, that style places a ceiling on their potential and limits their most dynamic players. The second half showcased why an up-tempo, free-flowing offense doesn't just improve performance, it also delivers a far more entertaining product for fans and supports long-term player development. For Indiana to reach their ceiling, Mitchell will need to fully embrace her role within Clark's system. When she functions as a complementary scorer rather than the primary initiator, both players can thrive. And the team can play the kind of basketball that maximizes its potential while keeping fans fully engaged.